Can you all hear me? All right, he gave me a mic. That's a bad thing to do. All right. So we don't believe in dying with blessings. There's no point in us to keep it. So we got to pour our cup out so God can fill it again, right? Yeah. So we're going to pour the blessings out on you all tonight. Is that all right? Yeah. In exchange, I didn't tell you the other part. In exchange, we want something back.
You want us to dance.
Okay, if that's what you want to do. We want your energy. If your energy is coming from your eyes, we'll take it. If it's coming from your hands, we'll take it. If it's coming from your feet, we'll take it. If you get up and dance, we'll take that even more. All right? So we love you all. We want to share that love with you all, and we want you all to give it back. The more energy you give us, the more it's coming back. Because we don't keep it, that's for sure. All right? So our name means... I like the fact that y'all start with God. But it's everything that God has given us. Yes. And what's the name of our group? Yala Minema. Good. So Yala Minema African Arts Ensemble. All right? Yala Minema. Yala in Wolof means God. In Wolof, which is one of the tribes in Senegal, West Africa. All right? So Yala Minema. Got it? Yala Minema. All right. I think they better take this. Somebody better take this mic.
Okay, can you hear me now? I asked them to stop because, wait a minute, who are we? How y'all sitting there with this music going? Get up out them seats. Don't tell me nothing about no author. Get up. Get up. Shake that money maker. Get them bones moving. Get them hips moving. Come on now. You know what's good for what ails you. Get up. If you was able to walk in this room, you can get up out that chair. Get up.
having a good time now? Yeah. Are y'all ready now? We just wanted to put you in the mood.
You did that, brother. I don't know about anybody else, but I love the drums. I love it. Sisters, y'all was like taking no prisoners. I'm checking it out. Woo! And brothers, y'all doing the do. I like that. I mean, on one level, it's definitely cooperation. On another level, it's like a little friendly competition. We're going to get underway. I hope you have been enjoying what has transpired already. Anybody learn something? Anybody learn something? I know I have. Has anyone contributed some jewels, some gems, some gifts? Anyone think that you have contributed some jewels, some gifts to the conversation? Thank you, thank you, thank you. Asante Sana. That's what we want. That's what we need, for folks to contribute freely. That's what this is about. So you see the common people like me, and you see some folks that all of us know, and we're able to like rub elbows and talk and strategize and pray if that is your intent, so that we can further our development. We're going to ask that, well, first of all, let me say, my lovely, intelligent, can get it done if she has to. Didn't she get them drummers to get y'all up? And she put it out there. Well, Reverend Afia Dawson is going to help me co-moderate. It's going to help me co-moderate, and we don't have much to do, actually, because the show is going to like roll itself. And first up, Reverend Robert Turner, if you could come up and give us the invocation. I'm sorry, I know you just took your seat, but hey, I know you're ready for us. Question is, are we ready for him? This is brother, the senior pastor of Empowerment. As you see, I'm having difficulties. Here he is. No, he's behind it. He's right here. See, like magic. All right, brother. Yeah, you walked to D.C. twice, or was it 3 times? 7, oh my God, for reparations. This man walked 7 times to take it to the seat of government in the world. So let's give him a round of applause, and let's get ready to receive his word. Yes, sir.
Let us bow. Pray. Dear Lord, creator of all things, maker and ruler of life, we ask that you bless this event, bless those who are here, bless the convener, Dr. Ron Daniels, and all who are participants and workers in this effort. And Lord, bless the international black world, sun-kissed people all over this earth, whose skin resemble the very earth that we stand on. Give us your power to speak truth. Give us your grace to love mercy. And give us your love to fight for generations unborn. In the name of the Christ we pray. Amen.
All right, thank you, Brother Reverend Turner. Next, we're going to do libation. And Baltimore folk, I know you already, I'm being redundant, but I'm very proud of this son of Baltimore. And we first had conferences in 1994 and 97. And this brother here coming up, Kareem Aziz, he was like our host. And we were at Sojourner Douglas College. And out of those gatherings came the first State of the Black World Conference. And we've been continuing ever since. Just move my stuff out the way. Kareem Aziz, put your hands together.
Good evening. As you, I'm sure, are quite aware, the pouring of libation is a ritual, an act that African people have been doing from time immemorial. It's a simple process of remembering those from whom we come, upon whose shoulders we stand, without their existence, we wouldn't be here. We would not be able to do what we do. So we honor those who have come before, who made it possible for us to breathe this air and to do our work to carry on that tradition. Maulana Karinga developed a Tamshila Tambiko, a libation statement. And we're going to go from it. It reads, our fathers and mothers came here, lived, loved, struggled, and built here. At this place, their love and labor rose like the sun and gave strength and meaning to the day. For them, then, who gave so much, so we can give in return. So on the same soil, we will sow our seeds, and liberation and the higher level of human life. May our eyes be like the eagle, our strength be the elephant, and the boldness of our life be like the lion. And may we remember and honor our ancestors and the legacy they left for as long as the sun shines and the water flows. For our people then, everywhere, for Imhotep, Ramesses, Hatshepsut, Nefertiti, Tai, Tutmos, Akhenaten, Tutankhamun, Neferu, we say, Ashe. For Garvey, Mohammed, Malcolm, King, Harriet, Fannie Lou, Sojourner, Bethune, Nat Turner, and all others who dared to define and defend and develop our interest as a people. Call them out, you. Ashe. Call them out. Ashe. 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 For our own family members, your mothers and fathers, your grandparents, call them out. Ted and Helen Hawkins. Ashe. Wayman and Etta Hawkins. Ashe. 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 For those whose names we may never know, whose lives were lost in that horrendous moment of Ma'afa, the Middle Passage, we say, Ashe. For those whose names we may never know, who died at the hands of those vicious slave masters, we say, Ashe. For those whose names we may never know, who hung at the end of a tree by the lynch mobs. We say, Ashe. For those whose names we may never know, who died at the hands of the state, the police, the thugs, the community folks who we know we got to fight against, we say Ashe. For our children who are dying in the streets today, we say Ashe. And for the souls of those who are yet to come, for our children and the fuller and freer lives that we will bring, that they will bring, because we have struggled. We say Ashe. For Kawaida and Kwanzaa and the Nguzo Saba and the new system of views and values which give identity, purpose, and direction to our lives, we say Ashe. For the new world that we will struggle to build, we say Ashe. And for the continuing struggle through which we will inevitably rescue and reconstruct our history and humanity in our own image and according to our own needs, we say Ashe. And may we live our lives. May that we do what we must do so that one day our children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren will see fit to call out our names because of the good work, because of the extent to which we have advanced our struggle and our people so that we can live and they can live a brighter day. We say Ashe, Ashe, Ashe. I thank you so very much.
Brother Kareem, thank you for that. That process, that ritual, that remembrance always moves me. You know, I swear I can close my eyes and kind of meditate, and I can hear our ancestors screaming, those who were tortured, those who jumped off ship and were thrown off ship, those who fought on the ships bringing our people to this side of the ocean. So many, so many. And until we get it right, in reparations, we're gonna get it right. Right, Mayor Ford? We're gonna get it right. It's inevitable, it's unstoppable. Our passion and our energy, and the fact that we're right, that God is on our side. A God that spoke first to man through the African, because we were first. So we will be back, elevated to that status. At this point in the program, we want to hear the Black National Anthem. So if it's queued up, just let it go. Am I getting a wave off here? Sing, earth and heaven ring, ring with the harmony of liberty. And they are rejoicing, rise high as the listening sky. Let us get on, high as the rolling sea. Sing a song of the pointed to royal faith that brought us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present brought march on till victory is won. The road we trod, bitter the chastening rod, felt in the days when love unborn had died. Yet with a steady beat, have not our weary feet come to the place for which our fathers sighed. We have come over a way that with tears have been watered. We have come treading the path through the blood of the slaughter. Out of the gloomy past, till now we stand at last, where the white gleam of our bright star is cast.
I got a minute, I don't have the last one.
Our weary years, God of our silent tears, God who has brought us thus far on the way, thou who hast by thy might led us into the light, keep us forever in the path we pray. Lest our feet stray from the places, our God, where we met thee. Lest our hearts, drunk with the wine of the world, we forget thee. Shadowed beneath thy hand, may we forever stand, true to our God, true to our native land. All right, give yourselves applause there. All right. Yes, yes. Sometimes miracles come in strange ways.
Amen.
And then we were just talking about this. We're not the ones to be leading this. But you all helped us. Thank you, thank you, thank you. All right. It's here, yeah, it's here. The pledge to the black and green.
We now have a pledge to the red, black, and green, and yes, it is. It's in your program.
African people.
If you take, I'm sorry,
you
pledge for African people. We are an African people is the title. If you have the program, it's on page 21.
Yeah.
I'm going to give you a minute.
If you
Shake
had
your
the
head,
program.
no.
It's-
If you have the program, please take it out.
Okay, we can lead.
Okay, or you can repeat after us. How's that? Okay? Now, you know when you do a pledge, you are not seated. So everybody who can stand, we expect you to stand. If you're able. There we go. That's right. That's right. You'd be surprised at what you're able to do if you make up your mind. Okay?
All right.
All righty. We will remember the humanity, glory, and suffering of our ancestors and honor the struggle of our elders. We will strive to bring new values and new life to our people.
We will have peace and harmony among us.
We will be loving, sharing, and creative. We will work, study, and listen so we may learn so we can teach. We will cultivate self-reliance. We will struggle to resurrect and unify our homeland. We will raise many children for our nation. We will have discipline, patience, devotion, and courage. We will live as models to provide new direction for our people. We will be free and self-determining. We are African people. Together we will win.
Maja Tutashan. Yes. And you see, if you don't have your book, you will see that this was composed by none other than Ron Daniels for the Marcus Garvey School for African Education, 1970. 70. The struggle is long.
Yes, that's
And continues.
53 years ago.
Yep. That's about the time he came and got me out of preschool.
Oh, yeah, I think that's around about when I was born.
We've been so good
Again,
here.
okay?
Again. All right. We have a cross-generational panel. Oh, a drum selection? If we don't,
Okay, it says we have a drum selection, African drumming and dancing, but I believe we did that already.
I think
We did that
have-
already, okay?
Yeah.
But now, don't hang up your shoes because we're gonna do that again, but not right now, okay? So conserve that energy.
All right, so we're moving to a cross-generational panel. The role of hip-hop in the Black liberation movement. Facilitating this will be Kim Poole, founder, director, Teaching Artists Institute, right here in Baltimore, and the Reverend Lennox Yearwood, president, CEO, the Hip Hop Caucus. So we will be ready when folks are ready to come forward. Here he is. Here he is. Some of you. This is one of my heroes right here. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Good to see you.
You moderation, peace, my brother.
Good evening, good evening. Man, we supposed to get hype when hip hop comes on a little bit. Good evening, good evening.
Good evening.
It's an honor to be here. First and foremost, let me say, I can't see with the lights, but looking for, or just acknowledging Dr. Ron Daniels. Oh, he's behind me? Oh, okay, he's working. Give it up, y'all, for Dr. Ron Daniels. As the president of the Hip Hop Caucus, I'm very, very honored. Hip Hop Caucus turns 19 this year. And in that process and through the struggle, I've been very fortunate to be around some amazing people. I just mentioned Dr. Ron Daniels, Dick Gregory, a brother who was my security and then became mayor, Chokwe Lumumba, and some others. I mean, the list is long. Dr. Dorothy, Irene Height, who actually was my mentor. So I can go down the list. And so that actually is how we want to have this conversation. Sister Kim Poole is going to come and she's going to join the conversation. My job is to frame the conversation about hip hop, Black liberation, and where do we go? This mic going in and out. Is that? Can y'all hear me? Okay. Let me see if I can. So in this process of starting this conversation, the thing here, working with particularly the hip hop generation, this year marks the 50th anniversary of hip hop. And this conversation here is actually one of the benchmarks, the goalpost of this conversation, that this is what is leading this year-long conversation for many of us who are in the culture. What does it mean for us in hip-hop? What does it mean for us to do this work? And what does it mean to do this work in the aspect of Black liberation and fighting for humanity? And so I want to first start with one of the things here. When I came in, I was met by my brother, Kimon Freeman. I don't know if Kimon is still here. Kimon is right over there. Actually, we have a podcast. You should definitely check it out, called The Coolest Show at the Hip Hop Caucus. And Kimon was one of that. And I say that because He actually wrote a book called Nineveh that I think you should check out. But the reason I bring that up is this reason here. We are at a critical moment. This is not a game. And these convenings, we have to be very serious about what we need to do at this time. Some of you, I hope, have not forgotten, but if you have, let me remind you that this time, 8 years ago, in the place you're sitting right now, on April 21st of 2015, the entire city of freedom fighters had led an uprising for the assassination and murder of Freddie Gray. Freddie Gray was killed by the Baltimore City Police Department on April 12th of 2015, and then died because of those injuries on April 19th of 2015, and then was laid to rest on April 27th of 2015. And the reason that I lead with that is because the whole world was watching the uprising that took place here. As a matter of fact, this system was so shaken. Let me stop here and acknowledge my co-presenter. Give it up, y'all, for Kim Poole. And so on April 29th of 2015, the reason why I bring that up is because when we are here, we are in this facility, there's a ball game that is happening not too far away in the place called Camden Yards. And the reason I bring that up is that because the movement and the uprising was so strong, and the fear of this system was so terrified of what particularly black people would do, they had a game with nobody at it. Y'all might remember that. I'm saying, y'all may not, this is why you have to understand the history of the place. It was on April 29th, and they played the Chicago White Sox, and they were so afraid of the clashing because of bringing particularly white people down to see a ball game. And black people who had been so fed up in regards to another body being murdered, that possibility of clashing here in the streets of Baltimore, the Major League Baseball game decided that the $30 million that they usually get from a baseball game was not worth getting on that day. And they literally had a game with no one at it. But that was a moment. Because what we now know is that they have had many games since that time. And so the question for us, and the question for us in hip hop, and what does it mean for black liberation in this moment, is that what are we going to do in the 21st century for black liberation? Are we just coming here for moments, or are we really building a movement? That's this moment. Are we setting up institutions? Are we putting things together? Are we shaping policy? Are we dealing with litigation? The one thing I will always tell you is that demonstration without litigation and legislation leads to frustration. And so are we putting things together? So when we come here today to have this conversation, this is not a game, because since Freddie Gray was killed, if I could just say that, well, that was really just a one-off and that was just about it, and nobody, since in the past 8 years, nobody has been killed since then. But what I can tell you is that we're now mourning the fact that a 16-year-old rang the doorbell of someone in Missouri looking for his siblings, and he was shot, and it took, again, the outcry of us to ensure that that person was arrested.
And there are many, many other situations like that around the country and the world. So this conversation of hip hop is that hip hop has the ability to not only be here in Baltimore, but to be throughout this world. So I want to start with that and lead and just give, and I'm sitting here, so we have the dynamic is one which I wish it would have been much more, that we could have had some chairs to be equal and just be sitting, so that isn't the case, so, I'll go with that. And I ask you just to allow that process to happen. So I want to start off by just asking Kim to introduce herself. She's a founding fellow at Teaching Artists Institute. Introduce herself and her background for herself, and also with my little monologue, I guess, what does it mean? Because you're from Baltimore. Hearing this kind of retelling of the story, how does that make you feel, and particularly on the aspects of what hip hop meant then and what it means now?
Wow, so many stories. I wish it was just Missouri. Testing. Microphone checker. No, I'm not a hip hop artist. On. Hello?
No.
Hello? All right, there we are. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Candace. Everybody else back there. It's not just Missouri. Just over in Emerson, there were, how many people are from Emerson, over west? Anybody from Baltimore here? Anybody? Thank both of y'all for showing up. Thank both of y'all. Nancy and Josh. I even know y'all names. This is a sad story. I was hoping somebody I didn't know. So like I know, that it's not just Missouri, that just on the west side in Emerson Avenue, there were high school students, 2 boys that were murdered. At Forest Park, just a month ago, there was 1 boy that was murdered on the school premises. And so when you ask me what I feel about what's happening in other regions and how that relates to what's happening here in Baltimore, what I'm seeing is different manifestations of the same trauma. Yep. And it's happening across generation, and we have to ask ourselves what is different. Yep. And I think it reminds me of what you mentioned on the climate radio on your station, that we're no longer asking for equality. Now we're asking for the right to live. We're facing extinction.
That's right.
Black boys, especially, they're on a endangered species list. At least they should be. And the question becomes, how did we start getting worse? Right. Well, if you ask me, it's because the music stopped being in touch with our message. Music and all of our art forms in its origin was a response from the people's ability to survive. It was our response to oppression. It was our ability to heal, to create a bomb of safety. And if that meant getting on a microphone and speaking life into you, or protecting my community, or speaking death into the system, that meant that we at least were in touch politically as artists. But now the commercialism and the cultural appropriation has been one that is such that our artists have no idea or no sense of connection to what's happening. They have been desensitized, this generation of young people. They no longer value life the way we once did. I remember when Baltimore is a strange place. You don't know some of the stories about the corner stores when they were owned by black people, but you hear the stories still from your grandparents and your mother. And my mother would tell me, on Emerson Avenue off Cranston, you would go and for 5 cents, you could get an onion pickle, you could get 5 slices of bologna, you could get Chico stick and some penny candy. And she would tell me how her community felt safe, that even if she was home alone because my grandmother had to work because she was a single mother, that even if she, didn't have an auntie or a sister, the neighbor next door would make sure that she was home on time, would knock and make sure that she did her homework, and never was there an opportunity for her to feel unsafe in her own neighborhood. But I'm telling you, young people, they feel unsafe. They don't trust us. There's a book, Why Our Young People Hate Us. And the truth is because we've been unable to protect them. And I think that that is the reason why hip hop has gone astray. I think that is the reason why our young people are dying in the streets. We have forsaken them. And the music is an example of why and how.
That's powerful. Give it up, y'all, on that.
It's just the truth.
It is truth. It's 100%. And the one thing that is said there is that when the movement is strong, the music is strong.
Yeah.
But when the movement is weak, the music is weak. So there's a direct connection there for our role in this too as a movement. This is going to be a unique conversation. It's going to be, you know, we're hip hop, we're artists and influencers and artists. And first, I want to say, Kim, you look wonderful. You know
Thank you.
what I'm saying?
You know, I had to put on my fro for the panel discussion.
You know what I mean? And so that's first thing. And then the second thing is that, you know, we want to make sure and bring in voices. I am the president of the entire hip hop caucus. I always want to say that. Doesn't mean who I like working with. I like working with artists who make my job easier. Obviously, Dr. Daniels. That's one thing that I love. I love to work with artists and artivists like Sister Kim and artivists like the Siri X and Common and many others. They make my job much easier. But the one thing about it, I am the Hip Hop Caucus president for all aspects. And that's important because I think that what I've also found over time is that there are folks who people have written off because they have come through white supremacy and are acting like folks who have come through white supremacy. And then we expect them to act differently. But we see that when they come through that and they come up in these kind of settings and they see these kind of settings, now because I know that folks are tweeting and putting this on Instagram, then this has an impact. That's what we have seen. So this conversation will be one, our next kind of discussion will be on democracy, because the one thing here, and we're going to kind of go to the video screens to kind of do a quick showing on some artists talking about that. So it's kind of like an interactive panel. But I do want to say this. So this question, after the montage, I'm going to come to you, after the video, I'm going to come to you, Kim, and this is the question. Really, it's around, my hat is around says Stop Cop City. And that's an uprising that's happening right now in Atlanta, Georgia. And I bring that up not to get, we can get deep into that because a lot of things we should talk about, but I really want to talk about the leadership. Is that what we're seeing, particularly from hip hop, and the discussion is we are electing black city councils. We are electing black mayors. But sometimes we're not seeing the impact from that democracy. And so I'm gonna come to Kim just to let her think about that, but let's go to the video. This shows something. The Hip Hop Caucus is obviously trying to work with artists to make sure they can encourage people to be a part of democracy. But let's get to the next step, what we had to do to keep those politicians accountable. Video montage, please. We can actually go to the one with the Respect My Vote with the sound. Yeah, so they're saying they want to get that. I want to make sure they can get that together. We're gonna figure out the interactive panel process in that pathway. So the question comes to you, Kim, in that aspects. We know the importance of democracy. We know the importance, or you can figure out if for you, your thing was on voting. If you want to discuss that, but the question is after people are elected, they say one thing in the streets, and then say something different in the suites. So how do we in hip hop keep them accountable?
That's such a heavy question. There's so many different layers. You know, this conference, this convening itself is a part of the solution. This morning I was at a breakfast with someone, I can't think of her name, but she was representing the vice president of Colombia, an incredible woman. And she spoke in Spanish and she had an interpreter, and she said what we had to do was create a political party for black people. That it didn't matter if he was Democratic, it didn't matter if he was Republican. In Colombia, once we decided to create a black people party, that's how we got the vice presidency. That's how we began to assert our power. And so, to me, she's even in a different situation than we are, because they're the majority in their country. We are not. Black and brown people maybe collectively, but I feel like we have some issues that are a little different, even though we have a lot in common. Is the video ready?
I think,
Okay.
I think they gave us either a real nice, down, comfortable setting with the lights down, but I think, or the video's right. I think the video's
Okay,
ready.
well, you know.
10 years ago, we were on the brink of economic disaster and engaged in 2 wars. Our communities were dealing with life and death issues, gun violence, police shootings, lack of health care, environmental injustice. Hip-hop helped get out the youth vote before, but it wasn't enough. We had to build a stronger culture of activism in hip-hop that would increase our power. The power to make our communities safe, healthy, and prosperous. The power to stop wars and end poverty. The power to save lives. Our answer? Respect my vote. A movement that mobilizes young voters, voters of color, returning citizens, and the most overlooked in our democracy. A movement that holds those we elect accountable. And a movement that defends our voting rights.
Hip Hop Caucus launched Respect My Vote in 2008. T.I. was our first spokesperson. He believed he couldn't vote because of his record, but he learned he could and cast his vote anyway. He campaigned around the country to help us dispel the myth that people with felony records do not have voting rights. And many artists and entertainers followed T.I. and used their platform to get out the vote. We held one vote day in 16 cities and registered 32,000 voters in one day. We did a Get Out the Vote bus tour around the country and engaged students at HBCUs and people in their communities. On election day, we gave rise to the polls to women living in halfway houses. 2008 turned out to be a historic election, and it was the youth vote that decided the outcome.
Respect My Vote has grown into the largest, most successful, and longest-running hip-hop voter mobilization campaign ever. We've mobilized voters in every midterm and presidential election since 2008. In 2012, 2 Chainz, like T.I., led the call for returning citizens to learn about their voting rights and go to the polls. In 2016, Charlemagne the God, Keke Palmer, Vic Mensa, Amber Rose, Wiz Khalifa, Snoop Dogg, and Ty Dolla $ign all took up the mantle and brought Respect My Vote to communities around the country. We have also made local artists and influencers spokespeople to engage and inspire their cities to vote. It hasn't just been artists. Music labels, media outlets, and technology platforms that drive hip-hop culture have all played a part in Respect My Vote.
Over the past 10 years, Respect My Vote has set the stage for major culture shifts towards awareness, activism, and empowerment. The past 10 years have seen incredible challenges, and people have shown up in response in the form of bigger and stronger movements. The movement for Black Lives, Dreamers changing the course of immigration reform, Standing Rock, the largest peaceful movement of indigenous peoples in U.S. history, a powerful criminal justice reform movement with growing bipartisan support, the largest environmental mobilizations in history to stop climate change, and a national youth-led movement for gun reform. In 2018, woke is celebrated in our culture. Artists, celebrities, and influencers are aligning with social movements. The biggest stars on the planet are artivists, artists, and activists. It is a new wave of activism that was born from cultural expression and culture shifts in the face of divisive politics. We are dealing with serious challenges in our communities, but we've built more power, bigger platforms, and new ways to create change. We are not slowing down. The midterm elections this year are a defining moment for young people. Traditionally, young voter turnout drops in midterm elections, but not this year. Hip-hop culture has led the way with a new awake and motivated generation, and we will be heard this November. Respect my vote. Respect our vote.
Thank you, Kim.
You know, know who I respect? I respect my 90-year-old grandmother. Because my 90-year-old grandmother, she lived through Jim Crow. She's still alive. She can hear, she can see, she walks, she still drives. I know that Dr. Maxine Ankara from Uganda is here. She's 89. She's still organizing conferences and still a part of the struggle for our liberation. And you know what? I respect that. Because they were water hosed in order to receive the right to vote. So if you ask me, do I vote? Yes, I vote. Do I encourage teaching artists within the Teaching Artists Institute to vote? Sure. But our issues are so much deeper, right? Because even though I vote to respect my grandmother's wishes, understanding that she has given her blood, sweat, and tears to this place in the world, Turtle Island, I understand that we are stolen people on a stolen land. And that foundational contradiction will plague us until we properly address it. And I think, you know, you said earlier that you're the head of the hip hop caucus. And that was a holistic role, and it reminds me of the utility of artists and community function.
Right.
In the African worldview, the artist is not just the help, the hired help. They are like a part of community function. The griot is like a hip hop artist, like an MC. They hold the history of the village. They teach the children to understand their identity and remind them of their lineage. Very important role. It wasn't like Hollywood. It wasn't like, you know, the beat on the track that we just enjoy so much. It was a very important role. And the drummer, right? We'll talk about that in our sessions tomorrow. A very important role. We love that beat. Whether you're in church on Sunday morning or the club on Friday night, you love that beat of that drum. We are the rhythm people, hands down. But in the African worldview, the drum had a very specific focus. It helped us to acknowledge ancestors as they transition into the ancestral realm from eldership, new life when babies were born, maybe just communication systems like drums when there was war. We talked about that on the show. Listen, it's time to get ready. Everybody get ready. This is the cadence we play for that. And I think that we have forgotten the utility of the artist class. You said you understand that utility. And so,
Most definitely.
I think this is the right crowd. I'm going to go ahead and say this is a sinking ship. We have been prisoners at the bottom and the bowels of this ship since we landed on these shores. And until we recognize that when this ship sinks, we'll be the first to drown if we remain imprisoned at the bottom of this sinking ship. I mean, this is why we can't connect to the young people, because they don't know exactly what's wrong, but they know when they walk into those classrooms and they see teachers from Teach for America that don't look like them, that aren't culturally competent, that would never teach them to the cultural competence that they can connect with. They understand that we're in this sinking ship. They can't articulate it, but they understand and they feel it. And so my thing is, when we watch Brazil and Russia and China and India and South Africa begin to trade in their own currency, and we know that we're in debt to China, that China is the largest bill collector, more than the IMF, more than, the World Bank. China is the biggest debt, and we are most in debt here. No country in Africa owes more than the U.S., right? And so the question is, what is our strength? What keeps the U.S. going? What keeps the U.S. going is the dollar, because people are trading in the U.S. dollar. The dollar is the standard. And if we no longer have that as the standard, what will be our leverage around the world? We are sinking. And black people are at the bottom of this ship, and we will drown first. And so when you ask us, do we vote? How do we feel about the role of artists in this democracy? My job, because I'm more than just a singer too, I work with the Teaching Artists Institute in 8 countries around the world. And I'm looking for our escape boat. I'm looking for our life raft. I'm trying to figure out where black people are going, because this ship is sinking. And it doesn't mean that we can't find liberated zones. We understand that we're behind enemy lines. We still can learn from Cuba, We still can learn from Grenada because they created those liberated zones and they still educated their babies. And their babies didn't feel this constant sense of fight or flight because they were behind a liberated zone. So our work is a double work, as it has always been. And that's okay because we have the potential, because we have the stamina. Our ancestors have done this and more. So we have to work on both fronts. We have to build the liberated zone in the regions where we are, build those safe places where we are doing our own policing in our communities, where we're doing our own education. We don't need officers to give out stopping tickets. What are you doing giving out tickets? We can give out our own tickets. If there's somebody in our community that's violating the speed limit, we can protect us, we can educate us, we can feed us, and we need to focus on that. And artists need to be the bullhorn of truth. They need to take that microphone and civic engagement. That's what they need. They need to keep the people's attention long enough to educate them because our people are disconnected. They've been programmed to death. They no longer believe in this system. So T.I. got to get on the mic to tell you to care about the trash being taken out on your own front lawn. It's local artists right there in Baltimore that can do that job. So our artists need to be our bullhorn of truth. And so whether you vote or not, your local election is going to determine whether your trash get taken out. Who cares who the next president is if you got rats running through your alley because your trash ain't been taken out? So we need to use artists as that microphone to make sure the people stay aware of what's happening and remind them that we're in a liberated zone and this has never been our home and nor should it be our permanent place.
Come on now.
Truth. I'm sorry if that's too much, but I'm
No, that's not too. No, it's not. No, it's not too much. It was right on time, and I wanna come back, and because I'm loving this conversation, because I think I'm glad we showed that video. I think we have another one just like it. I want to come to that in a second, but I really want to make sure I show that video because a lot of folks, where I'm going to go with this conversation, may be like, oh man, y'all not really with democracy, y'all not with that. So I want to be like, nah, we hip hop caucus and hip hop artists, we getting out the vote, we doing that. So I want to make sure that people in that aspect. But now I want to go a little deeper because I think this is where we are. Because I think that Kim, you said that's very important. So where do we go from here, right? And this is a sinking ship. The question really is this though. And this is really something here that I think that in tomorrow's conversations, we'll get deeper into it. But I do want to kind of tee it up here. And that's this. The system, particularly of those who are in the civil rights movement, were in a situation where that was the go-to. It was to get out the vote. And I'm with that. I think that's okay, because we showed you. We registered 32,000 people in one day. So we with you on that. But the problem that I'm saying that for the hip hop generation, for the next generation, is that there seems to be a lack of accountability and measurability when it comes to black politicians. And what I'm saying here is that how do we, listen, we work with the Congressional Black Caucus, but there are folks who will say that, man, the Congressional Black Caucus sometimes, misses the mark when they feel like more like the corporate Black Caucus. And so how do we in a position work? Let me be very clear, I want our institutions that we have to succeed. I want our communities to do well. But the problem is that with democracy in this conversation is that if people are in these positions and they're forgetting about their community, only to give lip service, that's the reason why people don't understand the importance of this convening. Because this convening is so far up here, which is an amazing thing for us to have this conversation, but where is the political education on a daily basis that leverages out so folks can engage this conversation? Y'all hear what I'm saying? Because what I'm saying here is that we need to have folks who are representing us. And they're fighting for our issues. So what I'm saying here from the hip hop community and what we're doing, and I want to show this video from Dawn in this aspect. Dawn Richard is the artist outreach person from Hip Hop Caucus. She had a conversation. And in that conversation, please listen to this. This is the one thing, and then I want to come back to Kim, because I want to go into the other areas from economic justice and climate, some other pieces. But this is the thing, is that folks think that to keep it a buck, as we would say in our community, that folks are not serious, that they are okay with letting folks do the okey doke. And the power of hip hop, listen, I wore my fitted today here in this room. I wore my fitted about 3 hours ago when they asked me to come to the White House. My fitted and my whole, because it's Earth Day and climate and that kind of stuff, it didn't change. The comment that we put up for Hip Hop Caucus wasn't just about you're doing EO, which is great. When the first executive order for environmental justice came out, I was literally in college in '93. And then when it came out today, here I am today at the White House. But the comment that we came with today in our statement was that's fantastic. We got to fight for clean air and clean water, but this administration ain't doing enough when it comes to protecting black people as far as clean air and clean water in our communities. And we could say that. I don't feel bad saying that. I don't feel bad being in a position where I can be like, yes, you're doing good, but I can also tell you, you ain't doing enough. Why aren't we doing that within our community? So I'm gonna stop there, we're gonna go to video, and Kim, I'm coming to you.
Let's go deeper, right? Because we are having a Respect My Vote campaign, we're talking about the importance of voting. That's why we have you here. But I want our culture to know how powerful our voice really is. And I wanted your perspective specifically to even sit down with you because it's really interesting to be a parent right now.
Yeah.
And not only be a parent, but be a person of the LGBTQIA+ community as well.
Mm-hmm.
You have 2 black boys. We've seen incredible harm with police brutality.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen for black men. So how do you raise that? And then school shootings and what Uvalde just was, and just having a child go to school in this time. I'm asking and speaking of all this because I want to know how important it is to vote right now.
Yeah.
How do you feel as a voter? Are you registered?
Of course I'm registered,
Are you
yes,
registered?
of course,
Okay,
yes.
you're a registered voter.
Yes.
So then what does it mean for you to vote right now in this climate?
It's super important. But I want to say, you went back and you were talking about our voice as a community and my son's voice, because I realized something, that my sons felt like they had a voice in so many areas, but not in politics.
Ooh, that's powerful. How old are they, by the way?
My sons are 25 and 21 now.
So they're right on newly voters,
yes,
right?
Newly voters. But when they were 18, because I registered them both at 18, took them through the process, both of them gave me a lot of pushback.
Yeah.
And now this is after watching their father be in politics, lobby legislators, go to Congress. I work with President Barack Obama.
This is you being
involved
in
they've
social
seen
issues.
it.
Yes.
And both of them said that no one cares. This don't matter. The system is, it is what there was always something. And I just realized, I was like, so you don't think that your voice matters? You don't think that what you have to say is worth enough? And it broke my heart. And I realized, I had to reflect, and I was like, well, I guess I was that way. And I guess just as black people or people of color, we are taught very early on that when it comes to systemic things that we don't have power, so why even try? Why even go through it? Why even go through the hassle? Just survive and deal with it.
And that's part of voter suppression as well.
That's part of voter suppression. They use it. You know what I mean? They know, they're like, oh, we're going to tell them their vote doesn't matter. So they're not going to get up and fight for it. And so it was me literally building my children's self-esteem up. And this might seem weird when we're talking about respecting our vote. It was me telling my sons to respect their voice first so that they could understand how to respect their vote.
Powerful, powerful, powerful. Kim, who are some of the international artists working on democracy that you want to lift up? You have any international artists you want to lift up in democracy, or?
Oh yeah, y'all met him last night.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's an example. But more so, all of the local artists in the regions
Let's
where
go
we
deeper,
work,
right?
that you all
Because
will
we are
join us.
having a Respect My Vote campaign, we're talking about the importance of voting. That's why we have you here. But I want our culture to know how powerful our voice really is.
We got the
and
AV.
I wanted your perspective
Thank you so much. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Kim. Go ahead.
Yeah, but before I'll talk about the artist, but I want to respond to what you
No,
said
no, most definitely.
politically. You know, it's not that black elected officials don't want to represent us. They understand the situation that we're in, but you have to remember that they are an extension of the ideals of the system that they're working for. They come into the system wanting to change things. Oh, I'm sorry. Hello?
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, so I said that elected officials do want to do their job. They even want to go above and beyond. We talk about Barack Obama, but I won't talk about him. I'll just talk about my own city right here in Baltimore, Mayor Brandon Scott. He's a young boy. I mean, I say that he's a young man. I take that back. He's not a boy. He's a young man. And he came to the press conference. He supports this. He couldn't even make time in his schedule to be here for the mayoral breakfast. Other mayors coming into the city. Why? Because they determine his schedule. He don't determine his schedule. He is a figurehead representing an agenda that is bigger than himself. And so when you see this person as a person, now you're confused about their real power, and now you're mistaking their true self for the agenda of the system that they work on behalf of. And so I think that's unfair to say, you know, you are the problem. And black people, again, we're confused. We're always confused by these antics. You know, yes, you may still be our skin folk and our kinfolk, but if you are working in this system, you are a part of it. And at the end of the day, you will uphold it, or you will be removed. You will be replaced immediately. And I think that our faith in the system has confused how we survive in the system. Like, yes, we need to get resources from the system. Let's get them. Let's go get it. Yes, we need to work within the environment that we're in, but at the end of the day, we can never forget where we are and how we got here. And the moment that we do that, we hold black politicians accountable, thinking that they're going to use this system that was designed to oppress us, that only survives when we are in our lowest positions. When we're weak, we forget that they represent that, and they can only do but so much. And the artist community just need to be conscious enough to keep being that soundtrack in the back of our mind, to keep us focused and keep us in alignment. And you mentioned international artists, so you met Bobby Wine, but the truth is we work in Uganda. So we only friends with Bobby Wine while we in the diaspora, because we need to make sure that when we in Uganda, that we not playing with Museveni. But there are some people, listen, I'm just being honest with you. He ain't watching this video, we fine. But in terms of the international artists, what really impressed me most are the local grassroots artists that show up every day in their community that protect and preserve the African identity. They demonstrate the importance of our culture. Our organization's motto is that culture is the new currency. And the artists on the continent, they haven't lost it. I know that they were dealing with colonization at the same time that we were imprisoned. Oh, no problem. That O's gang, that other Baltimore, in our way again. Is this?
We can switch.
Hello? Yeah. So I know for a fact that it's not better. Sorry. Is this? Oh, you got to be the president of the hip hop caucus to have a good microphone. Listen, I almost forgot. I understand that they were colonized, that they received a European-centric education. But it's something about being on the soil that keeps you grounded and connected. They lost it all. And I feel like the artist community is an example that we need to follow in the diaspora. We have a benefit. The vibration in the diaspora is real. Remember that Pan-Africanism is something that we did. We did that. Got rid of the tribalism and the division. That's us right there. So they need us too. But for sure we need them, because even without them knowing it, they promote and preserve their cultural heritage. And I feel like that from local artists is who we should celebrate. Yes, we love the superstars, you know, the Beyoncés, the Jill Scotts, you know. But the local artists, that's where the heartbeat is. We're the rhythm people.
100% agree with Kim, and that's one thing I just want to make sure shout out, because I think that one of the things here, we are intentionally bringing up some hard conversations because we need them, right? We need them. So I want to make sure that we're not just going to leave it here. I want to make sure to shout out folks who are on the Hip Hop Caucus side who you can touch base with to dig deeper as an institution. One, as Kim said, it is important for us to have local artists. That is important. And we need to do, I will tell you, Hip Hop Caucus are going to continue to do better and keep pushing that as we are working around cities. But one person I want to make sure shout out is our Executive Vice President for Campaigns and Advocacy. If she can, there she is. If she could just raise her hand there. Tanya Clayhouse. And then next to her actually is Dr. Cynthia Swan, who's Chief of Staff at the Hip Hop Caucus. So to make sure and then there's other folks, Brittany, who helps our storytelling and comms, over there in the corner. Over is Calvin, who will give you a t-shirt if you ask for it, so make sure you get one of those before you leave. But I just want to lift up those, and then many of the folks who are here on the team at Hip Hop Caucus, touch base with them, and they'll be around tomorrow. I guess that leads to this next part, and I just, the time is always too short, but I want to get into some of this is Earth Week, and so we're on the climate, and we deal with that. I want to say this, because I want to make sure that, because I actually wanted to be here for my admiration of this conversation, and I wanted to be here because of the conversation we're having. I literally leave, when I leave here and go to Lake Charles, Louisiana, I had to be there at 8 o'clock in the morning, and that's gonna be tough on a brother. But I wanted to be here because I view this conversation so important, and your presence, I want to encourage you. I also just want to let you know that even as we're doing this work as activists, my cousin, Candace Griffith, who was 41, was killed on Monday, was shot in the head, and died on Tuesday. So, I say that because as we're doing this work, as activists, we got to keep on doing, it's not easy. So I just know that as you're having conversations about reparations and about democracy and about the culture, I just need you to make sure that whatever you do, that you love one another. That's so important, that you love one another, and that we make sure, and also that we take care of one another. I want to say this too to my elders. I want to keep it a buck. I know the camera's running. This may be something I might not have said normally in front of the cameras, but I do want to say this, that honestly, I think those of you who were real freedom fighters, there's a group of those who got the job, so to speak. And there's a lot of our amazing freedom fighters who are either still in prison, they're still exiled, or they can't afford their mortgage or their rent or their health care. And so we as a younger movement in hip hop, we gotta try our best to do that. At the same time, I'm asking a lot of folks in this movement, have become bitter and jaded and cynical. I just need you to just make sure that you kind of figure out how you can understand that you're dealing with a generation that's not the generation that was born when you were around. And so I just need you to understand that there's a difference in generation. We need to work together as in general aspects, but we're different. So I just want to make sure to bring those things as we kind of close up. I'm gonna make sure this last piece here is around the climate. We're talking about climate and clean air and clean water. That's an important thing. I want to make sure that you know that from our standpoint in Hip Hop Caucus, that we're clear though, that that the poisoning of our people is not by accident. That we know that 68% of black people live within 30 miles of a coal-fired power plant. That's not by accident. We know that the same toxins that were in Freddie Gray's body, that were from lead poisoning, that's not by accident. We're clear that Cancer Alley is called Cancer Alley because they put petrochemical facilities in that community that is predominantly black is not by accident. That these communities are called sacrifice zones. And to keep it real, I hope they're watching, if you're part of the fossil fuel industry, we are clear that your business plan means a death sentence to our communities. So we're clear on that. We're clear on how you are using plastics. We're clear on how you want to monetize water. We're clear on what you really want to do in this system. And so the thing that, as Kim mentioned, is that our generation is clear. While we are definitely still fighting for equality, we realize we are also fighting for existence, literally living on this planet. So I just want to make sure that and this is not, and unfortunately for a lot of our progressives who are out here, they have in so many cases made being an environmentalist, thinking that that's Birkenstock or Ben & Jerry's or whatever the case may be. That is not the case. It is not about being from Sonoma County or Vermont. It is literally from being in Baltimore and Southeast DC. It is from being in Newark. That is really what it means to fight for clean air, clean water. And the time has changed for us to make sure our communities have exactly that, clean air and clean water. So, want to just make sure I come to you, Kim, because I know you're passionate. You go around the world and talk about this. First, I'm pleased as we make sure to tell people about your art, because I think that's important, because you told me, which is very important, when you went to Africa, is how people just loved on you. And I had the same feeling when I went to the continent. It's amazing, and I think everybody should do that. But talk about just the aspect of, for our generation, for hip hop, why it is that we are ensuring that this planet and that those who have polluted this planet, including us, that they are held accountable.
I think
Let me give you the president's mic. There you go.
Thank you. Before we go further, if we could just do a moment of silence for his cousin.
Thank you.
I know what it's like to have to do this work and to have loss and still have to show up. And so, thank you for reminding me of the standard. Just a moment. Thank you. Listen, we are the quintessential human being, Black people. We created culture, civilization. That's not just something that's ancient history, it's now. We have to understand our responsibility to uphold life, to protect life. We have to make sure that as the quintessential human being is the standard. Too many of us are gone before their time, and the continent reminds me of that. So you asked me to talk about my art. I don't know, you got to throw me off a little bit. You know, I be spit fire, I be ready. You got me. I don't know. Wake up, everybody. No more sleeping in bed, no more backwards thinking, time for thinking ahead. The world has changed so very much from what it used to be. Yes. Listen, I'd rather show you better than I can tell you. You know what I mean? Please, as an artist, I'll always be a singer. I just understand. And it's not bigger than music. You know, people say, oh, it's bigger than music. Somebody said it's bigger than hip hop. I want to tell you that vibration is so different. The visual arts, what happens, you see, when you see a picture, let's say her beautiful dress, her jacket is purple. You see my eye, my iris, it interprets for my brain what I'm seeing. It travels on my occipital lobe to the back of my head, and my eye is the translator that tells me that her jacket is purple. You know, somebody don't want y'all to get this knowledge I'm dropping. That's why the microphone. But listen, her jacket is purple. My eye told me it was an interpreter for my occipital lobe in the back of my head. But vibration is very different. Music is very different. If I plugged electronic nodes to my brain and I played a chord progression, pentatonic, right? You could interpret, you could see through a monitor what chord was being played based on the vibration, the highlighted vibration on the screen. There is no interpreter. Vibration, you feel that directly. And so, thank you. You feel that directly.
Testing.
You feel that directly. Music is not bigger than music. Vibration is everything to us. That frequency that we radiate, it is essential to our health, our wellness, our balance. And so I say that to say, as an artist, you know, I feel a little bit, I throw around a little bit of swag because I'm a singer. I wield vibration. So those of us that have the ability to use their words, understand the power in that. Speak life. Your vibration literally shifts the atmosphere. God said, let there be light. And there was the vibration in the voice. You have that same power. We were on the radio and he said, I'm not really an artist like that. And I said, stop that nonsense. We are all artists. And when you create, it activates the divinity in you. Your ideas, the inception of them, that is art. And in the Teaching Artists Institute, we understand that creativity is foundational. When we are in alignment with our culture, we remember that. And we stop saying things like, you're an artist, you're art. We're all artists, and we all have the ability to create. So, I like it, maybe I enjoy it, but I want to remind you of that today, if nothing else. I really hope that you guys come to our sessions on Saturday. If you are a presenter at our session on Saturday, could you just stand? Clap for them, because it's bigger than me. I won't even be saying much. So we've got 2 in the room, 1, 3. So that's Miss Faustine Amara Owume out of Detroit. She runs Hip Hop in the Park. She's bridging those gaps between the U.S. and the diaspora by her birthright, her daddy Nigerian, but also because she decided to work in Senegal, Hip Hop in the Park. Those are the kind of international connections that we need, using that art to tie us up, right? Then we have Mama Ade Olomo. I sit at her feet. I'm learning from her more and more each day. She's a theater artist out of Cleveland, Ohio. She's a mother and a grandmother of 16 grandbabies. She loses track of the great-grands, but she's 70. I hope you don't mind me telling them, because she doesn't look a day over 50. Can you imagine that black don't crack? Mama Ade is our Thai elder, and she's doing a tour to Tanzania. Shout her out, just in case you're interested. Then we have our Baba over here, David Tavares. He told me call him Minister Server, right? Because he's in service to our people. The Hip Hop Declaration of Peace. He's been doing that work. I mean, we're celebrating 50 years in hip hop, and some of us have been around since it started. I look to you. I sit at your feet, and I feel connected. I'm still learning, and I look forward to what I can learn from you. Next up, we have Baba Kamal, all the way from Seattle, Washington. He understands vibration. Listen, they flew in. I'm talking about Atlanta, Seattle, Cleveland, Detroit. They care about this topic. They spent their own money to get here, and I just want to thank you guys for being a part of our sessions. Clap one more time, because they're with us. Good. That's it.
So we're closing out. I want to thank you. Make sure you come tomorrow for our session.
Before we close out, Baba Hakiami, the president of our organization. Clap, he's gonna come. Because we want y'all to know we don't have enough time to make sure, and we know some people are going home. Some people will choose what they call more important topics, reparations, black gun violence in the community. They're not gonna take art seriously, because that's not serious. That's for the artists. That's the conversation down the hall if you have time. But I want y'all to know that these sessions are deep. We understand art for social transformation, art's integration into community across sector. We understand that once we come into cultural alignment and we can agree on one ideology, all of our institutions will be effective. So we just want to read through the sessions quickly. I don't want to take too much of your time.
Thank you. Give us a strong black hand. And give this brother, Reverend Yearwood, a strong black hand. What y'all don't know about Kim, she worked for 2 senators in the state of Maryland. So well, I'm giving you props, sis, publicly if I didn't do it before. So, especially on the topic that you are speaking on. And let me just acknowledge an elder, an esteemed elder in the room, Dr. Leonard Jeffries. Give him a strong black hand. Give him a strong black hand. All right. Thank you, thank you. And to your mother. That's right. That's right. Yes, thank you. Alhamdulillah. Yes, Chuck D said Africa, rap, hip hop is the future in Africa. And so the Teaching Artists Institute, we are excited about the potential and connections that we have established in Africa. We want to be like the Hip Hop Caucus with all these members, you know, all over. Well, D.C., you got an office in D.C. and L.A. And so if you all want to connect to someone like Kim, you can join the Teaching Artists Institute. I want to encourage you to do so. But I'm going to read through the schedule because we want you all to know we put a lot into today, the 50th year of hip-hop. And let me get down here. So we're starting it off at 9 a.m. with a breakfast listening party, Sounds of Time. For 60 people. 60. So we'll stop the breakfast. Yes. And some people already have designated space and tickets, so whoever else comes, let them come, right? And then the 10 a.m. Deep Roots and Rhythm, Origins of Hip Hop, all right? 10 a.m. That's Baba Jabal Harris, if you see it. Mama Day, Aloma, Brother TC. He's somewhere? Okay. All right, so that's a beautiful morning session. Let's see what else we have. Okay, 1 p.m. Happy Earth Day Hip Hop, celebrating both Earth Day and hip hop, and a hip hop African video. Some of the artists from global places where we work, so we will be showing some of their videos that they've sent in. And 1:30 to 2:30, Youth and Hip Hop. Faustine, Wave, Faustine. Okay. Brother David, Minister. Who was that? David Terrace? That's you, right? Minister Server, right. And brother, you said something interesting about, during our interview, that you said that hip hop, and I know we're closing, hip hop is the fastest growing culture, you said according to the United Nations or something to that effect? Yes. And that's a beautiful thing because of our, because of our work in Uganda, which is one of the youngest populations on the planet. But let me get it. So Minister Server, that's 1:30 to 2:30. Let me keep it going. It's almost over. Session 3, so 3 sessions, everyone. A global grassroots luncheon, hip-hop policy of concern for global African people. And I'll be moderating, Haki Ami. Bobby Wine from Uganda. Dr. Beryl Beekman from the Netherlands. All right, let's give a strong black hand from the Netherlands. And that's right, none other than former State's Attorney Marilyn Mosby. Give her a strong black hand. Come on, y'all. Hey, don't mess with my sister. That's right, give her a strong black hand. That's right, you'll get it right around me. All right, session 3, Earth to Hip Hop Dance Battle. 4:30, Allison Finch Wilson, video campaign, Brother Vinny, and Jim Embry. Okay, well, we'll see. And that's about it, but there's a competition, right? There is. Then somebody can...
Yeah, so I believe in working in real time. So we're going to have a dance battle, and the audience is going to choose. We're going to give out a cash prize to hip-hop. They're going to do b-boxing and b-boy break dancing and a little pop and lock and all of that. And so the audience will choose. So we want to make sure that we have some artists that walk away with a few dollars. So we're going to do that. And then our last session, as he mentioned, Earth to Hip Hop, with the Reverend Yearwood said is that we have to, as a future, right? When we look at Afrofuturism, we have to think about Mother Earth. That was our job. We're the safekeepers. You know, water is a everybody. Air is a everybody, right? And our people, the climate injustice, we've always experienced that. The food deserts, you know, living in a place that don't sell fresh vegetables and, you know, produce. We experienced that in Baltimore. We used to have Arabers, people on horseback that with a cart would drive through the neighborhoods and make sure we ate. That culture has, you know, started its decline, or I'll say it's on its way out. So definitely climate justice is how we're gonna end out today. And Vinny Mwano, raise your hand, Vinny. There he is. We're gonna do a video campaign, because again, we're working in real time. This is not just a talk shop. We're not just coming up here to talk to you all. We want you to be a part of this video campaign. So if you come on Saturday to our sessions, we want to interview you. We want you to tell us best practices, bring your experiences in the neighborhoods, tell us what's happening on the grassroots area in your neighborhood. This is an opportunity for us to have a nationwide and international video campaign. So please help us to do that by participating in our sessions.
That's it. So please come tomorrow. I just want to say, Kim, actually, thank you for that moment of silence. I appreciate that. A lot of my team actually didn't. I actually told some of our leaders not to tell my team that what had happened, and so a lot of them just heard along with you. So that's just one of the things there. So I just really want you to come in tomorrow. And I just want to say this to the elders. Really want to say this to y'all. I don't know if you've been told thank you enough, particularly elders who love our people. And I just want to say to you, thank you. And that from the hip hop generation, you may not sometimes feel it. We love you. Thank you for your scholarship. Thank you for writing so many books, my goodness. And those books are amazing. Thank you for writing so many books and detailing our history. Thank you for holding people accountable. And I just want to say thank you I need you to not think that your work was in vain. I need you to just know that there are so many of us who are ready to do everything we have to do for the liberation of our people. Go home knowing that we will be free. And as my boys to me all the time, stand up, and as the great Chocolate Lumumba used to always tell me, who was my security, and he became mad, which is always crazy to me, he always said, Rev, never forget to free the land. Free the land. Free the land. Thank y'all so much. Good night. See you tomorrow.
All right, everybody. How's everybody feeling? We no ways tired? You know, that's what Fanny told us. We ain't no ways tired. We have now someone who, over the years, I always would get sometimes frustrated because he's so giving and willing to let others shine. That he would cover or lower the amount of time he had on his, in a way, own program. You know, he would say keynote, and sometimes he just wouldn't do it because we ran out of time, or he would exceed and let others do what they had to do. But I'm proud to be allowed the privilege of helping one of the most visionary of us. And I know it's dangerous when you start talking like that, because we're so talented. Our people got so much on the ball. Brothers and sisters, young in all generations, from all backgrounds. I'm just always blown away. I'm never surprised, but I'm always blown away by what we bring to the table. Dr. Ron Daniels has been at it for quite a while. A number of us can say that. But when we talk about the long-distance runner, I think that was Kilson, was it, that wrote that many years ago. It was in Black Scholar. And he talked about a whole lot of us can do the sprint of different lengths, but we needed long-distance runners. And that's who we have and Dr. Ron Daniels. He's run for president. That gave me a great pride when I could tell a white faculty member at the college I worked, and he was trying to make some point. He assumed that I was a Democrat. And he said, well, you know, that's why you voted for whoever was running that year. And I said, no, I didn't. He says, you're a Republican. No, I said, I'm not a Republican. Well, what did he couldn't understand? I said, I voted for Ron Daniels. That was a very proud moment for me. You know, I said, you haven't heard of him? Look him up. So without any delay, Dr. Daniels, would you come up and please give us your words of wisdom and vision?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Well, thank you. 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 All right, we want to quickly. We want to do some things quickly. First and foremost, we have a special guest. We have a lot of special guests, but one of our very, very special guests. We've already been introduced. I'm going to introduce him one more time. And that is, I call him our paramount chief. He has had some health challenges, but he is still going strong. Dr. Leonard Jeffries, one more time. Dr. Leonard Jeffries. And Dr. Leonard Jeffries is one of our legacy. He was in the very first class of Legacy Award recipients in New Orleans in 2008. But we also have the mayor of the whole world with us, of the whole world. And he will be receiving a Legacy Award, and we will have a special event for him. Would you please acknowledge none other than Mayor Johnny Ford, the first African-American mayor of Tuskegee, and president of the World Conference of Mayors, Mayor Johnny Ford. Now, we had a meeting tomorrow that was to be facilitated by the next person coming up, and I want to ask one of our persons with IBW to come up and make a special introduction because she has to leave, and we certainly want to give her an opportunity to share some words. She made a special, in fact, surprised me because I didn't know whether she could make it or not, but I want to have Louis Romaine with the Institute of Black Work 21st Century please come and make a special introduction at this point. Louis is a bad brother too, suave and clean. Look at him, look at him, look at him, Mr. GQ.
Blessings. Hey, Baba, blessings, blessings, blessings. I have the permission from the elders to speak, and I greet you, my brothers and sisters, and pray blessings and love upon you. I am coming, I bring you greetings from the city of Mount Vernon in New York. Money earning Mount Vernon. And in 2020, we had a new mayor. It was very exciting because it was our first female mayor in our city. We are just outside of New York City, north of Westchester County, and I served on the transition team for this mayor. Her name was Mayor Sean Patterson Howard. She broke records, and I stand before you today to announce that she has again broken new records. She is one that is continuously breaking glass ceilings, and even though she may walk on shattered glass, she keeps dignity, she keeps her commitment to the people, and I'm glad to call her my mayor. She has now just been elected the president of the African American Mayors Association. So without further ado, please help me welcome my mayor, my friend, Mayor Sean Patterson Howard.
Good evening, everyone. How are you? Giving honor to our ancestors, giving honor to our Dr. Daniels, to our Dr. Jeffries, to our Mayor Ford, to all of the distinguished guests here in the house. I stand here the wildest dreams of our ancestors, because I now get to lead a city and work in City Hall, where my grandfather was the first ever black person to work for the city. But he was a porter. He cleaned the basement. He mopped. He shoveled the coal. And he didn't get his high school diploma until after all of his kids were grown. And I had the opportunity to come back and lead a city that raised me, that fed me, that nurtured me, that strengthened me, that lifted me, but I never, ever, ever was interested in elected office. But sometimes you get tired of seeing the crazy and the confusion, and when God gives you an assignment, and it's really an assignment, you can't step away from it. And so I stand here today, humbled to be in your presence and supporting the work that is being done through the Institute for the Black World, and we're doing a global work. And so the African American Mayors Association is over 500 black mayors across America. And when I say 500 black mayors, from everything we have the mayors of the 4 largest cities in the country right now: New York, LA, Houston, and Chicago are all run by black mayors. Oh no, those are the largest 4 in the country. Those top, London is my girl, okay? And 10 of the top 20 most populous communities in the country are run by black mayors. And I thank you for the work that you're doing in getting out the vote. And one of the biggest challenges that we have is we get excited when we get out the vote and we get black people in office, but then we kind of sit back and we lose the level of engagement that we need. I run a city of 100,000 people. There are about 750 employees. Clearly, government can't do it all, right? We collect the garbage, but we need us to have pride in our neighborhoods and sweep the front of our homes, tell our kids to pick up the garbage. This is not just the job of government, it is the job of community. And what we have to do is we have to put the neighbor back in the hood and recreate and reclaim our neighborhoods. We have to teach our young people how to respect and rock their block, right? When you rock your block, you're treating your block with respect. The one thing my mother taught me as a young person, she said, you know the rules of my house. And I don't care where your friends come from, and I don't care who their mama is, but when they come in this house, you better let them know the rules of this house. And so we have to get to that point even in our neighborhoods, that we are reclaiming our neighborhoods. No one's gonna do that for us but us. And so I'm gonna be 55 in May, so I grew up in the hip hop generation. I'm from Money Earning Mount Vernon. I grew up with Puff, I grew up with Hev, Pete Rock, Al B. Sure, CL Smooth. I grew up with JB Smooth. I mean, these are the people who I grew up with and went to school with, and we hung and we partied and we rocked it out. But right now, in the hip hop generation, you now have mayors and you have lawyers and you have senators, and giving honor to my Senator Jamal Bailey, who's from the Boogie Down Bronx. He covers the Bronx and Mount Vernon. One of the things that he says we know how to code switch, but we'll never soul switch. And that has to be something that is very, very clear. We know how to code switch. I tell people, don't get twisted, don't get confused by my pumps and my pearls, because I can put on a fitted hoodie and Timbs and still be myself. I'm still the mayor, regardless of whether I'm in my pumps and pearls, or if I'm in my Timbs, or if I'm in my cultural garb, because I wear my cultural garb to work. And people go, is there a special celebration? I said, no, I'm black every day, right? I'm just black every day. It doesn't have to be a special cultural celebration. And so I will wrap my hair and I will wear my braids, and then I don't have a perm, so when I take my braids out, I'll rock my natural, because I'm going to show up authentically as myself. And I really, really enjoyed the panel that you had before. I encourage you, if you get an opportunity, go on to the African American Mayors Association YouTube channel. We did something historic this morning. We had Mayor Adams from New York City, Mayor Lightfoot from Chicago, oh my goodness, and Sylvester Turner from Houston, and why am I forgetting my sister's name, the former congressman from LA, Karen, yes, Karen Bass, yes. I I have had 10 hours of sleep since Monday, so please excuse me because I am on E. But we had them on a panel, and they spoke about the reality of black mayors in this country. One of the biggest challenges we have is not only the fact that we don't get elected to be mayors of our cities until they have become garbage, right? Until our communities have fallen apart, we don't have the opportunity. And so 50, 60, 70 years of decline, and then we get into office, and everyone expects us to turn it around in one term. And that's not possible. That's not possible, and so we're frustrated as a people, and we've looked at our community's decline, and we want instant turnaround, but instant turnaround doesn't happen in government. It doesn't happen in anything. It can only happen with the collective will and input and pressure of the people. And so, absolutely, as electeds, hold us accountable. But I'm asking, can we hold you accountable? Can we hold you accountable? No, we're not bringing the guns into our community. No, we're not. But are we checking our kids' drawers? Because I didn't have any privacy in my mother's house. Never did I have privacy. Are we checking our man's phone more than we checking our kids' phone? Just a question. Because, you know, we're going to keep it a buck. Let's keep it a buck, right? we got all type of apps where we could follow people who we're in relationship with, but are those apps on our children's phones? Do we know who they are hanging out with? Are we letting them go to people's houses who we haven't met their parents? And even in our own neighborhoods, are we judging mothers who are struggling with their children, but then yet when something fatal happens to their children, then we go and we light candles and wear a t-shirt and put bears in front of a place? No, if Miss Mary is working 2 jobs and those children are loud, then go down the hall, go across the street, bring them some food and say, baby, you may not talk to me, but I love you. Because you can't correct who you don't show love to. We do not have the moral authority to correct the young people when the only time that we're speaking to them is to tell them what they're doing wrong. We have to talk to them. You have to say to them, young man, young lady, you're not smiling, baby. I know you got a beautiful smile. I tell the guys on the block, I was like, look, if I was 16 and a size 6, you smile at me all day. And they were like, right? And so we just have an icebreaker and have a conversation. But we can't be afraid of our young people. We have to allow them to talk about their pain and their frustration. We can't go to church and just shout out our frustration and our depression and our anxiety. We can't. We got to be able to get some mental health counseling. And I'm not always talking about medication, but go and talk and get some counseling. These are some of the biggest challenges in our community. We have to make sure that we're working together in an economic community. We talk about CDFIs, or community development financial institutions. If the banks are not lending us money, then we have to make sure that we are pooling our money together and that we are doing loans in our community, microloans and micro-lending. But then when we give you some money, you gotta pay it back, right? I mean, we all have a cousin who comes to us and they ask for money, but you're like, no, don't call it a loan, just say, give me money. Right? And so we have to do that, and we have to work together. If we don't call our community to order, no one can call our communities to order other than us. Other than us. We have to make sure that we are training and upskilling and preparing those in our communities for the next level of work. We have to look at AI, and we have to look at green jobs and green technology, construction jobs that are coming in, tech and STEM work. And we can't do that while they listening always just to the drill music and playing video games at 40. I'm not trying to tear our people down, but if we don't have honest conversations and crucial conversations in our own community, we have these conversations under our breath, right? We have the conversations under our breath. And that's why we're losing our property as never before. Our property is the greatest asset we have. But Big Mama hasn't written a will because she got 4 kids, and 3 of them are strong, and 1 of them, Pookie, is not doing what they're supposed to do. But Pookie moves in with the kids. Mama doesn't want to make a will because she doesn't want anyone to get mad at her or Papa doesn't want to make a will or leave the house to someone, and we leave the houses to those who are least able to maintain the house, pay the taxes, and then we are losing our assets. And so in Black neighborhoods, what we're seeing is the level of home ownership and owner-occupied homes is almost less than 50% in a lot of neighborhoods. And so when the houses are being rented out and when they're being used for income and the landlords just want them for income, they don't care who moves in. They don't hold them to rules as long as they get their money. And then there goes the decline of our neighborhoods, right? So it's not just about home ownership. We have to make sure even if people are renting in our neighborhood that they still know there has to be a standard. We have to make sure that we are securing generational wealth for our communities. And so some of the things that we're doing as Black mayors is we have a program called Mayors for Guaranteed Income. I was raised by a single mother, and I watched her move her money from one pile to another, right? But that didn't make it more money. It just made it, it was like shuffling cards. You just move the money from this is the food, this is the rent, this is clothes, this is utilities. Okay, let me move it again. And so what Mayors for Guaranteed Income does is we're giving households and homes in our community anywhere between $500 and $1,000 a month. And it's through a lottery system. And so in Tacoma, Washington, it's called Breathe, because sometimes we just need a little bit of room to breathe, right? Because the utility bill is a little higher, and now the rent is short. In Mount Vernon, we call it Level Up, because sometimes when we're working and we're working overtime and we're traveling on buses for 2 hours, we don't have time for our kids. And so if I can get $500 to $1,000 extra a month, I can go out and buy me, please, a hoopty. Not a new car. Get you a little hoopty that's gonna get you to where you need to go so you can get a better job, maybe a little bit further away, and you don't have to travel on public transportation. Take that money to go and take a class, get a certification. We don't give prescriptions as to how the people have to use the money. We know that cash is the currency of urgency. And so what we found out because they get debit cards, and what we found out because we track how it's used, not because we're telling them how to use it, because we want to be able to demonstrate when you give people the right to choose how to use a little extra money they get, they're going to always use it for the right thing. And so the top things that they're using that extra money each month on is food, utilities, transportation, childcare. Basic needs. And I don't want to say too much, but I can tell you, I'm not a career elected official. I worked for 30 years as a social worker, working in AIDS, going back to 1986, running before Black people was really dealing with it, an addictions counselor. And I also started and ran drug courts in our region. I've worked in the community violence interruption space, so A.T. Mitchell is my dude, Kay Bain is my guy. We do a lot of this work with Cities United because we have to make sure that we are cutting and eventually eliminating the number of Black boys that are being killed in our community. And I'm not talking about by the police. And so we have to look at their school attendance records and their discipline records and how they've been kicked out of school, because those two things combined are the greatest predictor of them getting involved in the criminal justice system. When our kids don't go to school, or when they do go to school but they're getting kicked out for violence, those are the greatest predictors of the fact that they're going to go in the wrong direction. And so we have to catch them upstream and not once they're arrested, making sure that they know how to read, making sure that they know how to deal with their anger and their frustration, making sure that if they have parents at home who are dealing with mental health and substance abuse issues and who are not encouraging them, because that is the reality of a lot of our young people who are growing up. And then how do we help to parent and support the parents who are supposed to be raising our children? We have to find ways to do that. And so in the African American Mayors Association, we have several focuses. Clearly public safety, improving public safety in our community. And that's not just policing, but we're creating offices of community engagement and neighborhood safety, right? Because it was already said, we have to police our neighborhoods. We have to have conversations. We shouldn't have to call the police to tell somebody to turn their music down. We should be able to call our neighbor and tell them, look, turn your music down. This is disrespectful, right? And so the police shouldn't have to come in our neighborhood. We are creating co-response teams, doing more mental health and substance abuse and outreach workers responding to issues in our communities with the police, and making sure that our police are properly trained so they know how to deal with people who are autistic or people who have a mental health crisis, because those are the things that we need to do. We're dealing with environmental justice. So my brother, you talked about it, because like Jay-Z says, I have 99 problems and that is not one. For many years, we looked at the white tree huggers and said, oh, we ain't got time for that. We're not dealing with that. But the air in our community, we have higher rates of asthma and respiratory diseases and sarcoidosis and COPD, right? So we're having problems breathing. In Mount Vernon, we have a 100-year-old sewer system, 100-year-old vitrified clay, 100 miles of sewers. And that sewer system is built on top of our stormwater system, and it's crumbling. And so the water's going into the stormwater system, and it's going into the water around us. We have the Bronx River and the Hutchinson. And so we have a consent decree. We're getting fined millions of dollars by the EPA. And so we're trying to fix those issues. And so when the EPA was telling me, shut up, get fined, and get beat in the corner, I said, I'm not shutting up. God didn't give me a harp and tell me to play it. He gave me a trumpet and he told me to blow it, and I'm gonna blow it. And I'm gonna blow it until you hear me. You can't hold me accountable for fixing a 100-year-old issue without giving me help and support. You can't fine me for what I can't afford to do in the first place and think that that's gonna work. And so we found people, you know, Ross Baraka is my boy. We went to Howard together, and he's over there in Newark, New Jersey. And so the same groups that sued Newark are the groups that I went to and said, I got a problem, and they beating us into a corner. I need you to help us. And so they started making phone calls. And so our governor gave us $150 million to start working on our sewer systems. Because when you can't flush your toilets in your neighborhood, that's a problem. We had 1,500 households in the projects and senior buildings, because, you know, it's always concentrated poverty, that couldn't flush their toilets without a bypass machine that sits in a intersection that runs, right? And so we had to go out and we had to get partners and allies, and we want our communities to hold us accountable, but we want them to hold us accountable also in a way that says we're not just agitating and advocating, we're gonna become allies in helping to fix the problem, because we'll hold each other accountable in ways that we'll never hold people who don't look like us accountable. And then we try and figure out why because you can't conquer what you can't divide. And so when they can divide the community from your black mayors, then they can conquer us, because that's what they want to do. Because they want to get back into the urban cores and get those transportation systems and reclaim the downtowns, the urban areas that they moved out to go to the suburbs because they didn't want to live around us. Now they're tired of living in the suburbs, and they want to come back into the downtowns and gentrify our neighborhoods and kick us out and make us think that the suburban life is the dream. Well, then why are you coming back to the neighborhood, right? And so we have to have those crucial conversations. Hold us accountable, but come to us with the solutions. Let us use our collective frustrations to be a force multiplier that makes the work happen faster. And so we sat down with President Biden today, and we said, we love all of the money and the policies that have been passed, but infrastructure projects take 2 to 5 years, and the people in our community don't feel that money yet. Workforce development programs without a requirement of the unions, it takes too long. We need to make it move faster. The public safety money, we need to get on the ground quicker, because we want to make sure that people are motivated and that they feel that the trillions of dollars you hear about on TV is reaching our communities. And so signing a bill means nothing if we're not breaking ground and doing ribbon cuttings in our community. And if people don't feel safe, and if people don't feel like they're getting jobs and contracts and things of that nature in our community. We're dealing with Black maternal health. I'm a woman who lost a child and almost died on the birthing table. Right? And so how can a person with an advanced degree that's Black have a higher death rate and child death rate than a woman from West Virginia without even a GED? It doesn't make sense. because you don't listen to us and you think we're strong and you don't respect us. And so we have to have those conversations, not just about maternal health, but access to health care, quality health care, not beat down health care, access to quality foods, not the fruit that they sent from the good supermarket in the suburbs to our neighborhood when it starts to turn and just get, you know, as the clearance food. Our fruit and vegetables should look the way they do in the suburban communities. And we have to make sure that we're advocating for that. We're not necessarily poor. It's just that oftentimes our communities don't have the necessary services, and so we take our money outside of our communities and we spend it, and that tax revenue and those monies are not recycled in our community. And so we have to make sure in our communities that we have the services that we need, so when we spend our money, the money stays in our community. We have to make sure we have the right jobs, environmental justice, health care, Black generational wealth. We have to have all of those conversations. And the public safety conversation we absolutely have to have. I am all for criminal justice reform. I pushed for it hard. But also part of that reform has to be us going in our kids' room and making sure they don't have these guns. We didn't manufacture them and we didn't bring them into our community. I absolutely agree with that. I'm on the board of Mayors Against Illegal Guns, and we're fighting that constantly. But we also have to hold ourselves accountable. We can't be afraid of our kids. We can't let them get away with stuff. And we can't cry after something happens. The same energy, and I tell people, when you come at me with certain energy, I said, use that same energy before it happens, not after it happens, because when someone gets killed, we're hashtagging, but by the time the funeral happens, we've gone on to something else. So if you could spend 10 hours a week on Facebook talking about what's wrong, give me 2 hours a week that you could spend mentoring a young person that's not yours or a member of your family or doesn't live on your block. For us, by us. FUBU was a fashion. It was a hip-hop fashion, but the essence of the message still remains. For us, by us. For us, by us. Superman is not coming. And if we continue to wait on Superman, yes, we deserve reparations. I went to Howard. Trust me, I believe in reparations. But until we get them, we have to repair our own communities. We have to repair our own communities. We have to sit down and be strategic and intentional about how we're working with the hip hop and the artist community, how we're working with the fraternities and sororities or the civic organizations, the neighborhood associations, or mama on the block who knows everything that's happening. We got to sit down and talk to our elders who have been there, done that, and seen it. But we want to make sure that we are not nullifying their voices because they have the wisdom. Even the Bible said that, you know, Moses knew the way. You know, the old know the way, but the young are strong. And so we have to take the strength of the young people, the creativity of the young people, the new technology that the young people know, and combine it with the wisdom and the strength and the lived experience of our elders to make sure that we're making a difference in the community. And the last thing, I just have a few little, I guess my staff calls them Seanisms. Because, you know, it's just things you say in the heat of the moment when you get ticked and you can't let your inside voice come outside. you find other quick ways to say it. And so I tell people, yes, there's a system, but we're not all bowing to a system. I tell people I don't have a ring to kiss and I don't kiss a ring, right? And so we speak truth to power. We will speak a hard truth rather than a soft lie any day. Let's spend less time impressing each other and more time working to leave a lasting impression on one another. Right? And just work hard. Work hard. Come together. Be focused. Because we are the most, when we are focused, Nothing can stop us because we are the most resilient people that this earth has ever seen. And we also are reaching across in the diaspora. And so we have already signed a memorandum of agreement with the Afro-Colombian mayors. And so we will be going over to Colombia and doing work with the mayors in Colombia. We're in the process of signing an agreement with the mayors in Africa. And so we will be traveling over to Africa because our brilliance and our excellence and our struggle is the same all across the world. And we can't separate it by continents and countries and borderlines and zip codes because, like I said, they can't conquer what they can't divide. And if we continue to keep these fake divisions of country and language and continent in the forefront, then we will never get far. Other people know how to unify even when they disagree. We have to learn how to unify even when it's not perfect. I thank you for giving me this time. I wanted to come in the morning, but I've had 10 hours of sleep since Monday, and on my way back from DC from the end of the African American Mayors Conference and full activities today, I said I had to come by and just greet you. And thank you for your work, thank you for your vision, thank you for your passion, thank you for your leadership, and thank you for bringing together people to discuss the crucial information and things that are happening in our community. We need you, we honor you. Dr. Jeffries, we honor you. Mayor Ford, we honor you. And to all of my people out there, and especially our elders, we honor you. Please share your lived experience with us. We need it. Mayors spend a lot of time crying in the corner. I do my 40 hours a week by Wednesday at lunch. No, I'm serious. I work over 115 hours a week. 7 days a week, I'm pulling 15-hour days. But people don't see that. They see us in a black Suburban and you got a driver. Yeah, we got a driver because we tired. We got a driver because we're running to so many appointments. Sometimes we just need someone to park. It's not about being flashy and fly. It's about being practical, and it's about being safe. And so the glamour of a mayor is much more than it is in reality. And people said, we need you to write a book. I said, well, the name of my book would be called Crying in a Corner, because of many days, that's where I am, crying in the corner. And I'm beseeching God to send the resources and send the help and send the support that we need to do this work, because no one's giving us anything. Violent crime is actually going down in a lot of our communities if we look at the statistics. But the reporting of violent crimes in our community is increasing because it's clickbait. And so we are suffering from contagion reporting. If something happens in Uvalde, they're calling me in Mount Vernon going, are you going to send police to the schools today? Right? And we're dealing with a vicarious trauma. After COVID, I think we got so tied into TV and 24-hour news cycles and clicking on social media that we don't let up. And we watch the things that kill our soul every day, and we get addicted to it. So we got to pull back from it and spend more time strategizing about how to fix it than sitting there and looking at it and shaking our heads in awe and feeling defeated and feeling that we don't have the resources to fix it. We do have the resources. The collective resources and education and strength and innovation that is in this room can cure whatever you want it to cure. But we have to take the time to sit with each other and identify and properly diagnose the problems in our community, and then come together. Nothing happens overnight. It's not a one-off. And we have to stop starting over again out of frustration and not doing it and following it through. So stand fast, continue to work. Thank you so much. God bless you, and I will see you again soon.
All right, Mayor, we just called her Mayor Sharon. We just called her Mayor Sharon. So, brothers and sisters and friends, we've heard the keynote address for the evening. So we can just say amen. I really don't believe in punishing audiences. And as a result, very often I end up not getting a chance to speak, to be honest about it. And I'm not tonight. I'm just going to say a few words in relationship to Mayor Sharon. Sean, I'm sorry. But first, before I do that, I just have to acknowledge one of the great warrior women of our time. She's going to receive a legacy award tomorrow as well. Dr. Ife Williams is with us. President, CEO Emeritus of the National Congress of Black Women. I want to talk about, and you know, I had a number of things I wanted to talk about. Maybe I'll have a chance to talk about them on Sunday. First of all, it is an arduous task. It does require hard work, but it also takes conditioning to do the hard work. I've been here since Monday. Yeah, I've been here since Monday, that's right. Because it took hard work to take on an endeavor of this kind. Tell no lies, claim no easy victories. We in IBW, I made some errors and mistakes in terms of different things that occurred, and we had to try to figure out how to overcome them. And we're profoundly thankful to Sister Kim Poole, whom you heard earlier, Brother Haki Ami, and this brother right here, Brother Kobe Little at the NAACP, and Kareem Aziz, and a few others, Reverend Turner, who said, okay, we're going to come together and we're going to work to make this happen. We started on Wednesday, and on Wednesday, we started at noon, and because we had not one of our facilitators, I literally worked from noon, did not get back to my hotel room until midnight. And on the next day, similarly, I started at 6 o'clock in the morning and did not get back to my room until midnight. I did not go to my room all day. I say that because I take vacations, I breathe, I do a number of other things, so I don't just, but I really don't cut slack because it takes work. Back in the day, we said Kazi is the blackest of them all. And you do what's necessary. And so I know our people are exhausted and tired, we worked them hard, but in some sense, really, you have to hang in there. Because our people suffered and were brutalized. They didn't have the leisure of rolling up in here on a plane and a train and to have meals and so forth. And if we remember that when we're plotting and planning and strategizing, then maybe we just put a little extra energy into getting it done. And our people have been very patient. You've been very patient. People have really been very good. First night, people stayed right into the very end, and people are staying tonight. But frankly, there are like at least 5 or 6 times more people who are here than are in this room, which means they're exhausted. We wore them out, right, so far. And that's okay. But I do want to say this. What we are about in the Institute of the Black World 21st Century more than anything else, and I was going to talk about it a little bit more completely, is the ability to make connections. I mean, what the mayor just talked about in some ways is the essence of what we do. Ron Hampton, who is the chairperson of the task force for police accountability within the Institute of the Black World 21st Century, you saw him this afternoon, he did, or I think it was this afternoon or yesterday, whatever it was, doing a session on reimagining policing and public safety. As a part of that process, because we can be ideologues, we have great phrases, but I'm a practical person. I am a pragmatic progressive. So I want to know, how do we not only rhetorize about it and theorize about it, how do we actually get it done? And so we had a symposium. And I insisted in that symposium, I said, I want to bring some public officials into this conversation because I want them to tell us whatever we say, how will it resonate with them and how will it enable them to move it forward, or will it be an impediment the same? Because it's easy. I mean, we can all spout. I mean, I can give you a lot of revolutionary rhetoric, but what does that, at the end of the day, what does that really mean? Nothing, if you can't, in fact, implement. And so we did, Louis Romaine, we said, who can we invite? He said, well, there's this bad sister up in Mount Vernon. Why don't we invite her? Non-pretentious, didn't require nothing, rolled up into the meeting, and she sat there with us for 2.5 days. And then she was then the incoming in line to become president of the Association of African American Mayors, and maybe I'm not saying correctly, but you know the organization I'm talking about. And she sat there with us and bounced ideas and rolled up her sleeves and worked with us for 2.5 days. So what does that really mean? That means that we have a strategic partner now. We have a strategic partner now. You heard about gentrification. We say that gentrification should be declared a state of emergency in Black America. You know, we took it before. And we were trying to, you and I, we were walking around, please, can y'all, we're knocking on the mayor's door, but y'all please listen, and well, we're busy and so forth and so on. We don't have to do that now, because when we call our mayor, we have a good chance of having gentrification declared a state of emergency in Black America. And the other reality becomes the dialectic, the interrelationship between the elected, because let me just say this, in the Tongolese, Sanyika, my dear beloved friend, we know we worked on this in a long time. Politics is not elected officials. Let me say that again. Political leaders is not elected officials exclusively. We've had to have this dialogue and interchange between elected officials and grassroots and community organizers to say, we too be elected officials in some ways. We too are a part of the political process. It is a fusion of the community-based activists and organizers and protests and demonstrations and building community institutions. All of that is political. It is not the exclusive preserve of those who are elected officials. It is not. You have to have that connection and that workability together. And we have to continue to work on that. But on the other hand, it is also important to get in there and become engaged and understand it is not perfect, it is not the entire solution, it is something that we have to work on. Dr. Maulana Karinga perhaps said it best. We are realistic, but for reality, we have come to change it. I mean, that's the reality of it, right? I mean, there's a relationship between reform and revolution. There's another way of saying it. The revolution does not just happen. It takes in stages, and there's no such thing as really a contradictionist revolution in the middle of a contradiction. Just another quick example of what I'm talking about in terms of how we want to function with IBW. We always, for years, have advocated for and dealt with the question of cross-generational dialogue and engagement. And so when we have these sessions, beginning in 2008, and there was someone who wanted a roll call, we did the first State of the Black World Conference in 2001. 2008, we skipped over, and we were in New Orleans in 2008, 2012 in D.C., 2016 in Newark. This is number 5. And every one of them, in this session, we have the young or the cross-generational leaders first. We do that deliberately and intentionally so you can hear from them. By the way, it doesn't mean we have to agree with everything they say, because sometimes I don't. But at least you hear from them. That's a measure of us saying that we do respect you. We want to hear your voices. And Reverend Yearwood, I know he had to leave and so forth and so on, but Brother N.T., you remember when we walked the streets with that brother. I can remember him sometimes, me and him were going to the FEMA office when Hurricane Katrina happened. And sometimes he would go way over here, and we say, "Oh, but brother, I don't think you need to go way over there, but I'm standing with you." And look where he is now. He's grown the Hip Hop Caucus to one of the most formidable structures in the world in terms of the work that's being done. But we work with him. And he may have even alluded to that. And we'd like to connect people. He didn't know Kim Poole. They didn't work together before we connected them. Right, Brother Kobe? We were in the meeting. Brother Kareem, we were in the meeting. And they said, well, if we're going to do this hip-hop thing, I said, well, I know this one, I know that one. They said, we have a world-class global hip-hop leader right here. I said, well, we're going to do that. Then why don't we? So we said, okay, but why don't we connect the Institute with the Hip Hop Caucus? And what did we have today? The conversation you had was one that was forged. And that conversation will last into the future. And they will gather others who will be a part of that too. And let me just say this. I'm a rhythm and blues guy. I like blues. I like hurting music. You understand? I mean, but I understand the role of it. I understand that hip hop is at the cutting edge of inspiring and recruiting and galvanizing a generation of people. As an organizer, I have to respect that. And so therefore, we have always tried to find a way to deal with what we call positive hip hop. And I critiqued it when they came up with the gangster rap and all that. I said, and talking about it being real and all that. I said, well, the way I understand it, we have to move from realness to revolution. That's what El Haj Malik, El Shabazz, Malcolm X did. He was dealing with realness too. But at the end of the day, he became one of the baddest, most revolutionary brothers that we've ever produced. So we've always advanced that proposition. So brothers and sisters, I just wanted to make a couple of comments along those lines in terms of the connectivity. We have a lot of work to continue to do in terms of this conference. And they made a strong advertisement for the hip hop track. But everything I would like to say to Mayor Shine, if she were here, all the issues you talked about, you know we have covered most of those issues. 8 tracks. And you had an opportunity, all of you, the way that we've organized the conference is to have you come and be able to sample and see what's going on. And we could have done more. We tried to create special sessions, and people were in those special sessions as well. But we had 8 major tracks. But tomorrow we ask you to stay in what? 1. Why? Because we want you to have a deep dive into sharing your experiences and learning, a learning, sharing experience tomorrow. And so we won't see you until really some of you tomorrow night, but we won't see you until Sunday, because Sunday you'll report out. But the idea is for you to share and learn and work with each other. We will do the analysis, but more important than anything else is, what did you learn? Even if you failed, what did you learn that you can share? Because we are each other's greatest asset. That is the simple proposition of the Institute of the Black World 21st Century. That all the knowledge, everything we need, we have in our own hands, in our heads, in our hearts, to reassume our place in the forefront of human history. We have everything that we need. But we have to learn from each other and share from each other. Very common, very basic proposition in terms of how we move forward. So tomorrow, and spread the word with everybody as you leave, and go to your tracks tomorrow, all 8 of those tracks. Get your experiences. Those of you who can join us and will join us, we will have the Legacy Award tomorrow evening, and that's when we let our hair up and down and around or whatever a little bit. You know, I'm going to get my Absorbedine Jr. and rub out my bones a little bit and get an Epsom salt bath and hope that my bones will loosen up again, because in Tongolese can attest, back in the day, I used to do a little number. I mean, I used to be able to, you know, right? But now, you know, it may be a little bit more difficult, right? But we present our awards. Yeah, we'll see. I can bring it, brother. I can do James Brown, brother. I can do the moonwalk, brother. Believe me. But anyway, Cam Howard over there laughing at me hitting Robin Ruth Simmons. And anyway, and we'll do our Legacy Award program, and we'll enjoy ourselves, and then we'll close out on Sunday, and we have, Dr. Julius Garvey is going to present again. And one of the things I would say is, and we don't just say that blowing smoke, the quality of what you have brought collectively, the quality of the thinking, and the brilliance of the ideas, and then the seminal presentations by people like Prime Minister P.J. Patterson, and then to hear Bobby Wine last night. I mean, it has been absolutely phenomenal. And it came together under the umbrella of the Institute of the Black World 21st Century. We don't say that in any conceit way, but that's who we are, a result-oriented convener, bringing people together to share ideas with each other so that when we leave, we are more fortified and stronger than when we came into the room. So Latasha Brown is on her way to speak with us on Sunday. Tarana Burke, the founder of the Me Too movement, is going to be here on Sunday as well, and we're going to close out and put together a declaration of intent, because we've heard the ideas that we need to hear in order to move the struggle forward. So again, rather than the notes that I wrote, and to give you one of my scintillating, inspirational, way across the top presentations tonight, it shall have to wait for another time. As I bid you adieu, have good rest, and be ready for a luta continua and struggling tomorrow for a positive outcome for people of African descent all over the world, for the global Black diaspora. We'll see you tomorrow.